Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everybody. Still got a bit of a cold, so if you hear any pauses, that's why. But today, #6, I think this is, of Trent Reed in a boycott Arsenal ASMR read. By the magic of rating, we now, this is chapter 4, by the way, called Diagnosis. We are now going to fast forward 33 years, and such has happened in inverting time, basically in the time since they last saw. By knowing the extent of Arsenal's problems caused by being on the spectrum and being unable to express himself successfully during this stammer study. This will better inform the events that happened between the years of 16 and 49. Big cat though. Plus, if this was a novel and not one man's true account of his life, you simply would accuse the author of being a little fantasist. Too far-fetched an English fable or a thick story. Except it's not a story. It's not a work of fiction or a tale of the unexpected. What we read are the memories of Arsenal Whittock and his immediate family. Now, Alan and Arsenal interview. Alan, so how did you finally get diagnosed? I know it was through Samantha, your eldest daughter. I actually know how it got diagnosed, so I know what's coming up next because I spoke to Arsenal myself the other week. Arsenal. She was about 14 and I thought this was how people lived their lives. Every time she came home from school, I would just pick up on stuff she hadn't done all the time, every day. I was just getting too much for her and she started to cut herself all the time. So she went to CAMS. If you know what CAMS is, you know what it is. It's basically child and adolescent mental health service. If you're English, you know what CAMS are. I know what it is because I've known kids who've gone to it. I work with kids, by the way. In 2009, for having suicidal thoughts and self-harming. And then in 2010, when she was 15, it was just getting worse for her. I was always seeming to have a go at her. It was just getting to her so much. And then in 2010, November, she tried to take her life. Because after cutting herself over a year and harming herself over a year and having suicidal thoughts. End of interview. At this point, Arsenal is not looking anywhere near me, but over the other side of the living room. The pauses between words are getting longer, and he's having difficulty getting them out. And when he is repeating himself. I don't think he accepts or understands his emotions, but his eyes are filling with tears. But at some point in the future, we will discuss his ability to show emotions, empathy, or sympathy. But he is undoubtedly getting emotional talking about Samantha's lowest points. Another interview with Alan and Arsenal. Mainly Arsenal, is a big bit of Arsenal here. Alan, did you know she was cutting herself or self-harming? Arsenal, yes, but I never knew it was wrong. Did I because I was hitting myself every day? I just thought it was normal. I thought that was how people led their lives. And then after a year of cutting and feeling suicidal, she just thought that was the next step. And so November 2010, she tried to take her own life. And then she was in hospital, and then the next day I stayed overnight. So the next day, because of her age, they interviewed her. Yeah. I would like brackets. I'd like to think that after suicide attempt, that age wouldn't come into it, and anyone would have been interviewed. End bracket. And because of her age, I was allowed in the room. I was just sitting there, and then asked Sam why she tried to take her own life. So she just pointed straight at me and said because of him. And everyone looked at me for some reason. So they asked her why, and she rolled off all of the things about what she'd been feeling. Unloved, everything. She thought she was doing it wrong because I had such high expectations and thought everyone should do it like me. The thing she would do different to me, I would say to her, you don't do it like that, you do it like this. And she would say, no, you do it like this, Dad. It was just arguments every day about everything. And then the hospital asked me, Mr. Whittock, in your opinion, how much of what Sam says is true? And I said, all of it. Really? Yeah. So, you self-harm as well? No, I don't self-harm. The doctor then asked, so, what's all of these bruises up there on your head, Arsenal? I said, I said, that's where I punch myself and kick myself out, And why are your veins on your cheek pronounced and fairly red? Well, that's where I punch myself as well. Mr. Whittock, do you not realise that is self-harming? And I replied, is it? I thought self-harm was cutting yourself. And then they explained self-harming to me. I never knew it was self-harming. I was just hitting myself. Virtually there, and then they said they wanted to have a meeting with me. And that's when I started under Kings Park Community Hospital. Kings Park is a small community hospital based in Boscombe near Bournemouth, which is the place I live in, Bournemouth. So yeah, you can tell this is a person I know. That houses a outpatients department and multiple community teams. The teams include community mental health team, brackets CMHTS, and basically the same thing, but social worker, community something or other, Bournemouth intermediate care team, and Bournemouth Care Central South Direct Nurse Team. So yeah, I come from Bournemouth. If you don't know what Bournemouth is, Google it. It's a town, seaside town. It has an air show coming up next weekend, I think. Arsenal. I was there for a bit, but they wanted to put me on medication. They wanted to control me because my outbursts. They were just horrendous. Samantha said that my reaction to stuff was like she'd been she burnt the house down, and that's how violent I would get to myself and the wall, or just whatever was nearest. But for Samantha, it was just that dread of every day coming home. And she'll just tell you she was walking home from school and all of her mates would just be saying bye bye and have a good evening, and Sam would say, I have to go and see me dad. I hope he's not in I hope he's not in I hope he's dead. And her friends would say, don't be like that, but you don't know him. She's dreaded every day coming home. In the morning time, she would be dreading that she had to get up and I'd be on her for everything. Lateness, tiredness, everything. Alan, do you understand now why she felt that way? Arsenal, I'm getting there. It takes time. It just takes time, sorry. When I say I'm getting there, I'm surprised I do. I suppose I do, sorry. But it'll be later on in the day. I'll think about things and then I do it. But sometimes, right on the spot, it doesn't register, and so it's later on when I do my negative and positives from the day. I think everyone does that, like negatives, positives from the day. Alan, is that you processing? Arsenal? Yeah. If I don't understand anything tonight, I've got my dictionary down there, and I'll think of that's what that means, or that's what she meant. Or I'll get the laptop out, and after a while, I realise and get it. End of interview. Arsenal never really answers the questions here. He answers a different one which is easier for me to process. Instead of answering if he now understands how Sam felt or feels, he answers how he deals with understanding words or phrases that aren't words or phrases that he hears during the day. One of the many something or other that he uses to get through every day. Coping mechanism, sorry. They get through each day. We will hear much more of these later. I wonder if he still can't empathize with Samantha's feelings, and instead of saying no, answering a question that I haven't asked him. From the internal diagnosis, both Samantha and Arsenal were referred as for further testing, assessment and treatment. That's good. Sam digens from that's not discharge, that's diagnos, some rather, from Shelley Clinic in Boscombe is obviously vital to Arsenal's story, but not at this point. The most important fact to be taken from Sam's attempted suicide was that she sought help, and at this point of her life managed to get it. A secondary consideration certainly time were Arsenal's behaviour. The doctors who were treating Sam saw something in Arsenal that they believed needed further investigation, especially as Sam's self-harm had been triggered by how she felt about her dad. Sam tried to take her own life in November 2010, and the first report of Arsenal has, in reference to these incidents, are dated, fucking hell, Doctor Who's anniversary, dated November 23rd, 2010. Also, would have been mine and Charlotte's anniversary. Not that long after the event, and quite right to for himself the first clinical physiologically reported he had, dated 26th of May 2011. The first doctor that Arsenal saw at Kings Park is someone he didn't have fond memories of. Apparently, she never lifted her head once to speak to Arsenal, and he felt treated badly, with little or no respect. She just kept her head down and tapped at her computer. He was subsequently referred to Shelley Clinic under the same doctor, Dr. A. I don't know if Dr. A is the actual real name, but A.O. would go along with it. Before transferring to Community Adult Aspiragus Service, I can't remember, part of Dorset Health NHS Trust in Westbourne. Westbourne's has a bit far afield. He was seen for a internal diagnosis assessment for autism spectrum disorder on the 13th and 20th of April 2011 by Dr. W. He was also referred to Alderney Hospital as an outpatient on the 19th of May, and saw a consultant clinical physicist or Dr. S for further opinion. During this period, Dr. W. To put two other letters, we got Doctor Who. Dr. W. Who is actually Dr. W, Who, so it's nothing to do with Dr. W. Provided the original assessment, also spoke with Arsenal's mother, Pat Whittock, on the phone, as she still lived in Liverpool, to obtain documentation, developmental information. Arsenal's first report ever received on what until then was his some further condition was written on 26th of May 2011 by Dr. W of the Westbourne Centre. In order to diagnose someone with autism spectrum disorder, there must be recognised certificated across several areas, including social interaction, social communication, restricted patterns or behavior of interest, reproductive something or other, patterns or behavior of interests, style of, I don't know, right, it's a word I couldn't read, particles and behavior interests. These problems should be lifelong and not attributable to any other case. In order to access these traits, Arsenal took part in interviews, phone calls we made to relatives. He took specialist autism something questionnaires in an informal assent was made of his emotional literacy and as well as completed autism and empathy report to the first appointment. For analysts from the various tests, I'm just going to look how many pages I got. I've got too many. The analysts from the various tests included specialist example explains of Arsenal's reaction to certain situations occur late in his story and mostly in intervening years from the age of 16 to when his diagnosis was made, so will not be included. However, nevertheless, the summary was as followed. Arsenal's developmental history, together with his past and current, presenting in depth that he was absolutely on the autism spectrum. Given the late development of language, he met criteria for diagnosis of high-functioning autism rather than Asperger's syndrome. There are a number of factors associated with autism spectrum disorder (ASD), which predispose Arsenal of his depression and distress of the time. Rigid black and white thinking with no comprisement, the need for routine and structure being with high expectations, and Arsenal's vary of mind skills, meaning he couldn't take on alternative viewpoints and be confused by other emotional feelings. And everyone, that is 40 pages of a book called Arsenal. Stay tuned for the next 40. There's like 9 more pages I need to do to finish the chapter, and we'll do that in the next video tomorrow. But everyone, thank you all for watching. And as always, if you like the video, like. If you want to subscribe, you can. It's totally up to you. We are so close to 2,000 subscribers. So, good.